Hello world, this is Calvin Pascal, your host, and you are tuned into another episode of the Hinted Drum podcast. On this episode of the podcast, I talked with Kofo. Kofo is a writer, a storyteller, maybe a filmmaker, and we talked about stories, we talked about the creativity processes, we talked about writing, we talked about the life cycle of stories, and we talked about, a lot of things in general that I think that both of us found interesting, and I hope you do too. I've been away from the podcast for some time, but I'm trying to come back. I have had like so much stuff going on, new things keep coming up. So I've not had time to mostly sit down, have conversations, and record them. But I hope to start pushing out more episodes for you all. And yeah, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't forget to reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram at Hinted Neuron. And here's my conversation with Kofo. Hi, I'm here with Kofo. Kofo, nice to meet you. I'm very excited that you agreed to do the podcast, and I've known you for like 2 years now. I first noticed your Instagram profile, I think around the pandemic, middle of 2020, or maybe the end of 2020. I just did a podcast with Ene Ijato. You know her, you follow her on Instagram, and
Yeah.
we had this really nice conversation. So I kind of just
Okay.
like saw your profile somewhere, maybe on a comment on our
Okay.
post or something. So that's how I actually discovered your profile. And then
Okay.
since then, I was just hooked. And, I was just hooked, and I was like, man, I need to actually have this person on my show, because I actually wanted to have a conversation with you at some point. But, glad to actually be doing it
Okay.
now. And
I'm flattered.
yeah,
Yes. It's very nice to meet you too.
yeah. Would you like to introduce yourself for, a few seconds to my audience?
Oh, okay. My name is Kofo Odozi. I'm a writer. I'm a student trying to not die, trying to not die under the stress of life. And yeah, I don't want to say I'm not a filmmaker. I make videos. I don't say I'm a filmmaker because I don't know. I feel like that comes with a lot of responsibilities and a lot of and I don't think I have that. So I'm just going to say I'm a writer and I make videos sometimes. So yeah, and also a student.
Yeah, to be honest, I feel you. I feel like you push out so much content, and like the stories you're telling, like through writing, long form, and even short form writing,
Okay.
and like the pictures and the videos I see there. That's amazing stuff you do, even as,
Thank you.
I mean, I know what it means to be in maybe a Nigerian university that that could be cutthroat sometimes. Like it kind of leaves no time for you as a person. I mean,
Doesn't
that's
do.
amazing stuff. Yeah. So like we were discussing earlier before I started to record,
Yeah.
I saw I read some of your poetry and some blog posts that you posted in the past, and there was,
In the past,
I don't know
Jesus
how to like
Christ.
describe. What do you say? Yeah, yeah.
You went to the past.
Yeah, I actually like to read everything, because it's nice to always know the early days of someone writing, because you need to see how they evolve. I think it tells the full story of the person.
True,
Like I
sure.
think that yes, I would not only explore the new things that they put out, but like I want to see how this person was maybe thinking a few years back or something like that. So if I wanted to define Kofo, maybe someone asked me, I'll tell someone that she's a storyteller. because
Yes,
I
yes, that's
yes.
perfectly fine.
Yes, so like Kofo is a storyteller, he should know how to tell stories. And I think in some way we maybe that's where we have like really good common interest. That I would not say I'm a storyteller, but I want to tell stories. Like I just have this deep passion for
Okay.
stories, and I feel like I want to tell them. It could be any kind of story. And recently I started to think about like the life cycle of stories, my own stories or people's stories, the ones I've heard, and like the ones I want to narrate. And in some way you try to write them, it becomes really flattening. Like, oh, this giant
Mm-hmm.
idea of maybe a story I had in my mind,
Yeah.
and or the experience I had, or something I saw, or something that someone told me. I try to
Mm,
narrate it. That I
yeah.
just find it so unbelievable that when I try to
And then
write it, that I have flattened
turn
that story.
yeah, it turns to words and then it just becomes so simple. Like it's not this simple in my head, right? Why can't I just glamorize
Yes,
it the
exactly.
way it is in my head? Like why can't
And
the output be the same as what
I
I'm imagining?
this thing I battle with because like I think I'm obsessed with sentences, and you could also call this a rant. So let me finish. So I think I'm obsessed with sentences in a way that maybe I'm trying to draft a
Okay.
sentence. I fight with
That's
one
an interesting
sentence.
obsession.
Yes. And I fight with
Okay.
one sentence for maybe a few minutes, trying to like carve it to something that makes sense. Not make sense, but make it look well defined. Make it look robust
You
in
fight.
some type of
Okay.
way. And I don't know if maybe other people struggle with this too. So that's why I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to talk about it with you. And you
Okay.
put out more content than most people I know. So I just wanted to talk about your own relation with stories
Okay.
and maybe writing.
Okay. Like this funny thing is that recent. Do you see the last story I put up? There's no space in the future. There's no space in the future. The last story I put up on Medium.
Yeah, yeah. I think I read
As
like first few sentences of it.
okay, okay. I sent that link to a friend, and then he was like, "Your writing is so chaotic," and I was like, "Bro, what do you fucking mean by that? I am about to take offense. Please quickly explain yourself." And then he was like, "That that it's just like that's if my writing is a reflection of my mind. Like
Yeah,
like on the outside, I look at a person that's put together, someone that is just gingerly going her own, just quiet and simple. But then, like, inside of me, it's like pandemonium. Like,
yeah,
it's like a madhouse. And then, like, it's as if my stories are a reflection of that. And I mean, like, he's not wrong. He's actually not wrong. But my thought process can be very, very chaotic sometimes, most times. And like, the only way that I get to release those thoughts is through writing. Because like
yeah,
one thing, I don't know why, I don't know if it's just me, yeah, but then like people usually ask, what's your inspiration behind that? And then it's not, I don't always have inspiration. Like asking me what made you write this, it's not. There's no mind blowing experience that can tell you, oh, this struck. It's just I'm just dealing with stuff right now. Like everything you see me put out is it's probably some deep dark thought that is killing me and I'm just trying to get it out of my system. So I'm not going to say something mind blowing like I was walking down the street and something. No, I am literally going through stuff. So like
yeah,
that's literally the backbone of my work. So, like it's an expression of myself. All my most of my writings, like 70, 75, maybe even 80% of my writings are a expression of whatever I'm going through. at that point.
It's interesting that you say that because it's something I battled with for a long time. Like people would think that you have inspiration. Like I don't necessarily have anything to write most times. But like sometimes I just go somewhere. I mean, I could just go and eat somewhere and sit down. Boom, I see something, and I just like, okay, maybe I've been thinking about this for a
Yeah.
while now, and then I start writing in the restaurant while I just
Yeah.
leave my food.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just like things that you've seen that just maybe you want to or you've been thinking about. Sometimes you've been
Yeah.
thinking about something for so long, but you see something new, and
For a
then it
long
just makes you,
while.
yeah, yeah. So I
It
think
makes your
that's
mind
most.
start to run. And then like
Yes, exactly. And then at that time, you have to actually try to like push it out, because I think that if I don't put out the writing as fast as I, experience that thought, I might actually just forget to write it,
yeah.
because I've
Yep.
noticed, because it's
Yep.
something that
Yep.
it's, it's something that I was thinking about. There's this like grand thoughts in my head that I usually forget. I'm like, wow, so that piece is lost forever, and I might never regain it.
Jeez, that thing messes with my mind so much. I'm like, I'm here conjuring the story I believe will win me Nobel Prize and everything in this fog. And then I'm like, okay, now I'll write it down. When I get back inside, let me not just do anything. Let me just preserve this idea in my head. I'll write it down eventually.
Yeah.
And then it's time for me to write down the little pieces and fragments of this story. And I cannot remember it. And it's just like, God. So these things come forever like this. What?
Yes,
Where do we
yes.
go from here?
Like I talked about it with my friend earlier. I think earlier this year. He writes poetry, and he also
Yeah.
led to something I wrote on a blog about the cause of forgetting, and
Okay.
and how maybe like what the best way was to protect short-lived thoughts. Because I think that at the time I was really mad at myself for forgetting a lot of things that I think that would actually be
Oh.
good writing and good stories, or just interesting thoughts that just died off. And is this idea that I've been thinking about, the how much of human humor, how much of human wit, how much of human knowledge is like just lost and forgotten by people because they didn't write it down. I don't know if you've thought about it before. Like if you see
Yeah, I
maybe
guess.
the best storytellers are maybe like the best writers, if you forget about the work they put out and just think about the works that they never wrote, or the things that you would never see from them. I don't know if you've thought about it before.
Yeah. So many things lost in translation.
Yeah. So I that was a nice tangent. So I wanted to get back to the initial thought I had in mind for the podcast. So
Okay,
like I was
okay.
saying earlier, I was saying earlier, I've become obsessed with this idea of like the life cycle of stories lately, and like the way stories travel. In
Um, okay.
the way stories travel, for like from the initial point of having an experience to narration to sorry, from having an experience to what we actually remember, and to how we tell them, and to how people hear what
Yeah.
we tell them, and to how those people narrate what we tell them. I don't know. It's like this is how stories travel. And there's this discussion I was having with a friend, I think last week, about stories and
Okay.
the authenticity that travels, with stories. Like some people hear certain things, like there are stories of heard in a lifetime that are just like plain wrong. And then you begin to imagine how a lot of a lot of people actually believe these things, and like they survive for a very long time. There's so many of these stories, like India area. I don't know, you might know some of them as well, but like I think one very good example in my head is a football match that India and Nigeria had one time in the past that the football
Oh
turned
my god.
into
That the ball transforms to a lion.
yes. So I,
Yeah, I
I
heard that story.
yes, I've become obsessed with how like stories travel. Whether it's real or a false one, like how
Mm-hmm.
people make up things, how they travel,
Mm-hmm.
and how stories are maybe like
Mm-hmm.
edited in narration, how stories are trimmed down, how stories are flattened, or how stories could become even more robust in translation or something or narration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I had the idea and I was like, Kofo will be a
I
nice
feel
person
like
to talk
also
about this
something
with.
that contributes. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know what you think about that, or if you've maybe thought about it before in like the human.
I definitely have because like one thing that I know is that history they say that history never forget, but like history we may not forget, but like it will rewrite the story to suit whoever is telling it. You get so like
Yeah.
as much as we believe this whatever is happening now, an instance, an experience is being marked in the walls of the universe or something, there's going to be someone somewhere who's going to retell that experience or that occurrence. And then because they were not there when it happened, or maybe for their own selfish gain, some parts of that story are going to be tweaked, and then another person is going to pick up that same story. I want to retell it at another place, and then going to tweak a bit, and then the cycle just continue. I think it boils down to the fact that like human beings are like selfish. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why stories change over time. We we have no we have little regard for our fellow selves, dead or
Yeah.
alive. So like if I'm going to retell a story, I will try to make myself or I whoever I support in the story look like a good person.
Yeah. So as you were speaking something, so I just remembered something now for like a thought that I had.
Okay.
I
Mm-hmm.
I think that people like to edit stories to make it sound maybe more interesting or maybe more
Yes,
captivating than maybe the actual thing that happened because they want to sound intelligent. Because I think that stories make you seem intelligent. Like if you tell a good story, people will think you're
it
smart.
does. Like this, I just watched a movie. I just watched a movie this weekend. Sausage Party. I think that's the movie. Have you seen it?
No, I've not seen it.
Okay. So, um, the main character. Okay, what the movie? Let me just give this small rundown. What the movie is about? It's about food stuff that are like they are they can talk, food stuff in the store, they can talk and they can interact with themselves. So they believe that since those food stuff they have never left the store, they believe that what outside the store is a good world for them. They don't know that outside of the store they get chopped, they get killed, they get eaten. They don't know that's what happened outside the store. And then we come to find out that like that belief that that belief that they have was made up by somebody there. And the person there made it up so that the foodstuff can have an enjoyable life. They didn't want, the person did not want the foodstuff to live their life in constant agony, waiting for the day they are unfortunately picked by human beings and then chopped and eaten or something. The person wanted them to, while they were in the store, to enjoy themselves. So I guess that's one of the that's one of the ways where stories are retold just for
Yeah.
like small moments of joy, happiness.
Yeah, that is interesting that you say that because that sounds like an allegory for something that we are all familiar with in our own human lives. If you talk about maybe, I mean, I don't like talking about religion on my podcast, but it
Okay.
sounds like it sounds like an allegory for something that we we are very much familiar with. But yeah, if you think about it, I think we want to be comforted, and so yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know, but I think certain people want to be comforted, so like they cling on to these stories of an eternal life, that there's like a better life here. Like there's a better life somewhere else that is different from here.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
um that if you do the right thing in a certain way, in a well defined way and very strict way, you might be able to go to that better place. I don't know how I of course I don't know the
Yeah.
validity of that. That's not my place, but but like everything else, and I know what a story looks like, and it sounds like a good story that could comfort. I think that we tell stories to comfort ourselves and to comfort people, and
Yeah.
we cling
Yeah.
to we cling to stories because we feel like the author of maybe a story s- is someone that sees us, that we are not alone in maybe like whatever thing maybe we are going
Mm-hmm.
through or anything, and that someone else is going through this, and they even have words to describe it in ways that I have not described it myself. And I think that's why people cling to stories. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
true or necessarily, but I really think about that.
I think so too. I agree with that school of thought.
So I was talking with someone like a few weeks back,
Mm-hmm.
and they said that they read a lot of books, and but they don't keep those books in their house. That the book that they keep in their room is, I don't know if you had Perry Jackson, if you know, is it Percy Jackson? Yeah, Percy Jackson, the Olympian
Percy
stuff.
Jackson.
So
Yeah.
yes, so they keep those volumes of book beside them just because anytime they break down, that's the thing that will comfort them. So at the time, I didn't know
Oh
how to
wow.
interpret that. At the time, I didn't know how to interpret that. They said those were familiar words that could comfort them whenever they had a mental breakdown or something. So I was I I was thinking about that in
What comforts you
relation.
when you have a mental breakdown?
I do not
Yeah.
have mental breakdown, to be honest. And let's see.
Wow.
That's
Wow. Must be
is a
so
very
put together.
difficult is a very difficult question to answer, because I
Okay.
think that for maybe human beings are different, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm telling myself a lie, but I mean, some people say I have high resilience, but I would just say that I write when I feel like
Okay.
okay. I think I had one last year. Last year November, no, last year October. So I was really
That's
writing.
that's
So,
nice. I
so
envy
and
you.
and sorry, this mental this mental breakdown was caused by a person. So I had to actually write
Okay.
like I was writing letters in my notes to the
Mm-hmm.
person. It was like trying to talk
Yeah.
to the person, but in my own notepad or
Yeah.
something like that. So I think that was one way I was able to cope. But that is interesting that you say that. Is it that maybe I would like to define myself as a self-aware person? I mean, that could be a lie, but like if I can't like point out a time this year I had a mental breakdown, I don't know. It's interesting, but what comforts
Wow.
you when you have a mental breakdown?
That's I'm just going to say food.
Oh,
I eat a lot of chicken.
oh yeah, that's.
and and I write a lot.
Do you write like
I really
every
eat a lot of
day?
chicken every day. No, not every day, but like a day could come and I would probably write like 6 different pieces that day. Then
Wow.
my mind will just set off for like next 2 weeks, and I just said stop functioning.
That's
And then they will
amazing.
come and just have like an outburst of like emotions or something.
So are you the type of person to write once and like not edit? Or
Oh no, some things sit in my drafts for like a really long time because I feel like something's just wrong. I will just keep looking over it and keep picking at something. And then sometimes I write some things and I'm like, nope, not going over this again. You are either getting deleted or posted, so pick a struggle.
wait, do you delete what you write?
Yeah, sometimes.
Wow, that's interesting. I've never heard someone say
Yeah.
like to delete because I
Oh
would
no,
imagine
sometimes
like
I
it's
write
just
some
blank.
things.
Yeah.
I write some things and I'm like, how the fuck did this come out of my head? Like, I ask myself, okay, do you need help? I'm like, nope, nope. I don't let this see the light of day.
I I very much think that because I think I do write some things that I would never actually see the light of day, but I would I
Mhm.
delete them? I'm not sure if I would want to delete because I think it's always
I delete.
interesting to look back, maybe in a few years and see, oh, this was what my mind was generating at some point,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it could make for an interesting story.
Yeah. Mm.
Personally, I don't write every day.
Mm.
Um I think
Okay.
my uh, my life is very sectioned, very very sectioned because
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
I don't know how to describe myself, but I'm more of a science tech person. I've been doing maybe like
Okay.
software stuff for some time. So that's like the part of me that is like front facing to some people. Software guy, science guy. Now I started my PhD recently and I've been doing all that. So I
Mm-hmm.
become very engulfed in all those technical stuff. But like at the end of the day, when I come back, I like to want to convince myself that I'm a storyteller and this is that at the end of the day, this is what I want to do. I want to write and read. If I have the opportunity to do it every day,
Okay.
I want to be paid to write and read. So
Yeah.
I I I have like thoughts in my head for like some time and I start collecting sentences. I call myself a sentence collector. I don't know if I said that earlier. I collect sentences. I just like start writing one or two sentences.
Okay.
Maybe in a day I would write maybe like two or three sentences or maybe one
Oh,
sentence.
that's nice.
And then I just start,
Okay.
keeping everything in a log pile of, one long note.
Mm-hmm.
And then I start to combine them when I feel like it's time to start combining them. So when you call
Your life
me,
seems very arranged.
no,
Like,
so so when you call me a writer, I tell
mhm.
them I'm not a writer. I'm just a note taker. I take notes.
Oh,
I think that's very
wow.
far removed from who a
God.
writer is because because I think writers write. They sit down like I'm going to write this, but I take notes and then somehow I merge them together. I don't know if that's like the peculiar writing, and maybe like I don't know if that's like the formal writing process, but that's the kind of writing process I I,
That's
I think works for me.
that's a really nice writing process. I think I'm going to try it out like soon. It sounds so, I don't know, just sounds so concise. Like, okay, I've written this sentence today. Who knows what I come up with tomorrow? I like when sentences are like, just join them together.
I I
That's
do have. So I mean, it's not everything that usually gets finished. And
mm-hmm.
lately, I've become obsessed with the idea of when something is done. Like, how do you know something is done? Maybe our question is good for you since you have to put out stuff regularly. I think for your audience,
Yeah.
I do not personally. I don't have a need to put out content most times because I'm like once in a month kind of person. But for you who put you put out content regularly, when do you know something is done and ready to be shared?
When there's nothing for me to take out from it anymore. I've been looking at this thing and I may want to continue to write, but like when I look at it, there's nothing else for me to remove from it. Like it's just right. It just feels right. I don't know how else to explain, but like there's nothing else to take out from it. Because if I say I want to keep writing, I'll just keep going on and on and on. But like it feels done and there's nothing else to remove from it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think maybe that idea is maybe important for someone like me who would I say I have a very high standard of what perfection could be like. Because I spoil myself by reading so much good writing. You read so much good
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and then you feel like you could be like that
Yeah,
too. And I mean, I aspire to
yeah.
be like that kind of person to tell stories that I saw something recently by Jidena. I don't know if you know Jidena, and you
Mhm.
should know him.
I know,
Jidena
but
was
I
like,
don't follow him social.
yeah, yeah. I actually
Okay.
don't follow him as well. So he he said
Okay.
something like he goes to a museum or a gallery and he sees this very abstract painting, or he sees this painting that looks like someone just put a frame on a wall and that was all, and like people are calling it deep. And then you see that visual artists kind of have this knowledge of knowing when something is done. They just like, do something, spray paint on something, and they put it out there. I think that's something that we could, learn from them as well, maybe as someone who writes. But I don't know because pictures are much more vivid than words, and there's much more labor you have to do to actually paint a good picture for someone to relate to. But I don't know. I've been talking for like a minute now. But yeah, do you as a writer, do you feel doubts in yourself sometimes that you have to like maybe have a few group of
Definitely.
people who read
Yes.
your work before you put it out?
Yes, I do have people I send them to. And like, I anxiously wait for their feedback. Like, with, with, as if I'm biting my nail and like I'm literally sitting at the edge of my chair, waiting for them to text me back, say, oh, this is good, this is bad, I noticed this, something. I'm just anxiously waiting. So yes, I do feel a lot of doubts, like all the time.
Does that doubt stem from, oh, this is not good, or maybe it could be like something, am I the one who's supposed to tell this story, or like, is I'm not qualified to, say this. I don't know how that doubt expresses
Mm.
itself for you.
I don't know, I've never thought, oh, I'm not qualified to tell the story because like this is my story. If I'm not qualified, then but what I felt is this is definitely not good enough. I definitely had that thought like constantly and over like this story that I'm trying to tell. I've told it, but I just feel like I haven't used words the way they should be used. I haven't properly showed the audience the picture I'm trying to paint. I feel like I've created a caricature of what I'm actually trying to say. And I'm like, I've gathered a room full of people and then plastered their eyes open and then, like force them to look at the caricature of what I made. You get?
Yeah. Caricature. somehow, when you were saying that, my mind was thinking about this idea that people touch on a lot about authenticity. I don't know if it's something you think about or like you, but I know people say it a lot in any kind of circle about authenticity, about creating authentic work. But I don't know. Do you think that anything is authentic?
What I don't know is overrated. Honestly, in my own from what I think, I feel like authenticity is overrated. Like who is determining it? What are the factors? What's the metric? How do you measure it? You get like who what on what scale do you measure authenticity? Like who marks the book? Who gives the score? Who checks it? Who determines these things?
Yeah. We're all just plagiarizing things we see and we observe, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I feel like it's just a concept made up to like box people. You get?
Yeah. Said at the end of the day, I think what's important is that we're being honest when we write.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are
Yeah.
getting
Yes.
to
As long as you're being honest with yourself.
yeah.
As long as you're being honest with yourself as you're writing, like that's fine. That's honestly what matters.
Yeah. We're getting to the later part of the podcast. I usually ask two questions and everybody has to answer them if they appear on my podcast. So one of them is if you're given if you're given a microphone and anybody, every single person in the world can hear what you have to say, what would you tell them?
Every single person in the world.
Yeah.
Will what I say change their mind, or like I just have to say what I want to say?
It doesn't matter. You have one shot to say something. What would you say?
I'm to know what to change their mind.
It could, but at the end of the day, you can't determine that. But you have one shot to say something to everybody.
Okay. I have one shot to say something. Oh, let's see. When you first asked me that question, I had something I wanted to say. But like now that I know that like they are just going to follow, like what I'm just going to follow their ears. And
I mean, you could say the initial thing you said. You had in mind.
Okay. I was going to say like love is love, and like we should not be hypocrites. And like you can't. Everyone's moral compass is not the same, so don't go around expecting us all to be the same. People are different, so you can't be shitting on people for being different.
Yeah, that's very important. I think that people need to recognize that we are not the same in certain ways we think, we act, or we are born, or something. And like we should praise that difference more. And not judge people or kill people because they're different from us or don't believe the same thing as us. Yep.
Like, God, I wanted to ask you if you heard about what's happening in Iran, but I just remember that on the podcast, not the call. So, no.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I it's not something I follow every day, but I kind of read news once in a while and I see what's happening. And part to the women in Iran.
It's fucked up.
I think they are sitting. I think for them, they are setting like good stories, and in a few years we'll read about
They
their
are.
stories, like we'll
They
read
honestly
about the
are.
women's movements.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's a new women's movement that we will read about in a few years time, and I hope someone writes
It
that.
seems sad now, but like I think someone will. I believe somebody will.
Yeah, I think the whole process of change is sad because if you think about it,
It
um,
is. So many
change
things
doesn't really come.
go sideways.
Yeah, it doesn't really come in a happy, smiley way. I think it's more struggle. And then when you've achieved that thing, maybe few years later, or the people who live to like enjoy the benefit of those things, they might not really know
Yeah.
that it was no sweet.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the
Yeah,
biggest benefits of like things being written down.
yeah, exactly. My second question for you, Kofo,
Mm-hmm.
is what is the meaning of life?
Oh my god. What are all these deep questions you're asking me?
They're just two
What's
questions.
the meaning of life? Ugh. Life. Mm, life is life. I don't know if I should say it's a straight line. No, life is like a triangle. Yeah. Every time you think you are at your stop, the final point, there's there's more. You get.
It sounds like, well, there's always some bullshit ahead.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it may not
Well,
always be bullshit though. It may be good stuff
yeah,
too, but like, just know something is coming. Like,
yeah,
just
exactly.
know that that's not it. Like, whenever you're at a point and you feel like, this is it, too," whether you're at a good point or you're at a bad point and you're thinking, this is it, too," that's not it, too. Something is coming and you should be
Yeah,
prepared.
I resonate with that a lot because but especially in my life when things are just like really great, things are just smooth, everything's happening according to
Mm-hmm.
plan. I mean, things really ever happen according to plan, but you have two strikes and like things just go
Mm-hmm.
perfectly. You begin to wonder, wow, what's next? Where is the next dip? What's the next dip I'm
Yep.
going to experience? But then I like to be optimistic. I think that in general I keep a very optimistic stance on life. I don't know, but that's foolishness because
Okay.
sometimes optimistic could be foolishness, but I still like to try and be a happy person. I don't know.
Mm.
Maybe I guess I would classify myself as someone
Yeah.
that's happy just because I want to do stuff, I guess. But happiness wouldn't let you create so much. Sometimes I think I create so much stuff when I'm not in a
You're
very
sad.
happy place. I know that's like a very familiar trope, but
Mm. I really like I really like happiness. I like
yeah,
joy. I like good times.
yeah, yeah, and that's most of my life. So which is why maybe I would not write like people who have very deep pain, I guess. But
For
then I
sure.
tried to write what's true to me, was like true to me, and I don't make up stuff just to sound, insightful or deep. I try to like
Yeah.
the things that people would feel joy reading and can resonate with. Yeah. And I think we
Yeah.
should all strive for that. We shouldn't try to sound too deep sometimes as people who want to write, I guess. I'm calling myself someone who wants to write
Yeah.
because I don't see myself as a writer yet.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, so it was really nice talking with you. I think that we covered some things I wanted to talk about, and sometimes I feel like podcast is like therapy with
I
someone else.
absolutely
But
enjoyed myself.
yeah, it was nice talking with you. So I don't know if you want to say
I
anything for
enjoyed
my
myself.
audience.
Nothing.
Yeah,
I don't
where
know.
they could find you. I mean, I
Don't
will
be a
still put your
hypocrite.
links. Yeah, a hypocrite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm on Instagram at Kofo is art. Then Twitter the same name. That's my name everywhere. Sha. Kofo is art. Everywhere. Apart from Medium, Sha. Medium is like my full name.
Okay.
Kofo Odozi.
All right. I'm going to follow you on Twitter after I call, just so that
Okay.
I have you on Twitter as well. It was nice having you on podcast again, and
I
yeah,
really enjoyed myself. Thank you very
yeah.
much.
Thank you for listening to the end. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do all that. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't forget to reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram at Hinted Neuron. So that's it for me this week. And until then, stay curious.